please welcome my guest for this evening, Doxi.
For having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Hi there, Doxi. I'm so excited to have you here. So welcome on in. I only actually found you a couple of weeks ago. You're relatively recently debuted, but I always hop around looking for new guests. That's one of the main perks for me of just running Vtuber Talk, that I'm always looking for new people, and that, I don't recall exactly how my attention came to you. I think you were on the Twitch sidebar, and the algorithm of recommendations actually just works sometimes. And
let's go!
That sometimes just what I look for as a host is, okay, who do I think I could hold a conversation with for a good couple hours? And I got that vibe pretty quickly from you, and I'm so happy that you accepted the invitation. So welcome on in. Really happy to have you here.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Now, you've been getting up to a fair number of things that you are doing everything from reacts, you're doing some ASMR, some just chatting. But one thing that you've been pretty vocal about is your fandom for anime, your fandom for One Piece, and in particular, one Buggy the Clown.
No, not Buggy the Clown. Oh, God. Actually, yes, Buggy the Clown. Let's go. Let's go. I love Buggy. I love Buggy so much. But I also, we are all Buggy at the end of the day, honestly. But
we're all a little bit unhinged. We're all a little bit crazy. We all want to just sometimes split ourselves apart, but then put ourselves back together again. And I don't know, that sounds maybe poetic, or I'm just making this bullshit up on the spot. So who knows? It works either way.
It's poetic. And thank you, because I'm a paradox. So, I mean, let's go. That works.
Now, does your enjoyment of Buggy in particular as a character stem from the manga and the anime, or is that more in particular with the recent live action? Because I'm someone who has been aware of One Piece for a very long time. I'm a big anime fan, and I just never got into One Piece because it was too long. That I saw the first couple episodes back with the 4Kids dub back in the day, and didn't actually pick it up again when it started to be re-released. So I know the basics of Romance Dawn. I knew who Buggy was. I knew who Arlong was. But I watched live action recently, and as someone who, for all intents and purposes, is not a One Piece fan, I really enjoyed it. But I know that you're a big fan, and I'm curious, did your enjoyment of Buggy come before the live action, or was this something specific to the live action?
That's a really good question. I'm not gonna lie. So, I mean, like, I watched a lot of the anime. I know, like, a lot of people say, like, oh, Doxi, read the manga. But, like, listen, I don't got time. I don't know how to read, okay? Like, I'm literally, like, illiterate. I swear to God. But, no, so, like, I watched a lot of the anime. I got up to Whole Cake. And so I've seen a lot of Buggy interactions, and from Impel down, honestly, if I'm being real, I actually didn't like Buggy. I didn't like Buggy throughout, like, the majority of One Piece, and then Impel Down happened, and then it's an arc in the story.
Yeah, I have enough friends who are into One Piece that I recognize the names of all the arcs. I know about the Wano arc. I know about Water 7. I have no idea what the heck happens in those arcs. I just know that those arcs exist. And I knew that Buggy didn't die in the early episodes and that he comes back and does stuff. And I generally don't want to be spoiled on the stuff that he does, but I've heard that he does some cool stuff and that he does survive, as he does, surprise, surprise, in the live action. By the way, I'm going to consider this a full-on spoiler warning for anything covered in the live action, that it's been a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And I wish statute of limitations on spoilers could be very long, but frankly, if you were trying to not be spoiled and made it this far, that's also just impressive.
Yeah, that's honestly, yeah, that's true.
But that for you, Buggy was different. But that Buggy hit different for you from the source material to the live action.
Yeah, so like in Impel Down, like I started to like Buggy a little bit more, but I never really, like, I don't know, truly liked Buggy all that much. Well, he's kind of a meme. He kind of is like all that, you know what I mean? But like in the live action, he's literally just like a Tumblr sexy man. Like Buggy is literally a Tumblr sexy man,
That's
and I will stand by this.
Good description. I hate it. Oh no.
It's so true.
Oh, no.
He's up there with like what is it? The
was...
Onceler and the Lorax.
Because I don't know much about the Tumblr sexy man history and bracket. All I know is that the finals were Sans from Undertale and Reagan from Mob Psycho.
Yeah.
But at the same time, with that as my baseline knowledge, I can see where Buggy fits in, given those two alone as the precedent.
Yep. So he's one of them. There's a lot. So like, honestly, that's where my love of the Buggy Man comes from.
That's the horror movie spin-off for One Piece, The Buggy Man.
Yeah, The Buggy Man. I love it.
To the actor's credit, that Jeff Ward, the guy that played Buggy, if you told me that he was auditioning to be the next Joker for WB, I would tell you he's too good for WB.
I freaking love it. They casted One Piece so well. Like it's everyone suits their roles. Like it's so nice. Like I could talk on and on and on about the One Piece live action, honestly. Although I haven't even like finished it. Like
oh no.
It's okay. Listen. I've seen a lot of the anime, okay? But like I will say I haven't finished it, but I've seen like a good couple of episodes to know that it is all the hype and I love the characters. So yeah.
Like I mentioned, I'm familiar certainly with the source material. I've never dove into it fully, but as someone who has that baseline familiarity and just love of anime, that I very much wanted this show to succeed, because goodness knows anime fans needed a win when it comes to live action. We've been through the ringer, goodness knows, and just to see something done right, I don't care what it is, I just wanted to see something done right, and I feel like they finally got it. And that for me, as someone who is unfamiliar with the source material, I could not tell at a glance what had been changed and what wasn't. And when I went back and sort of looked up after the fact, okay, where were some of these changes, just out of my own curiosity, I realized that one of my favorite parts of the live action is probably the most divergent part from the source material.
Really?
And that I know that it's something that is a bit more contentious among the established One Piece fans because it is so different. I loved every single scene with Garp. I thought Garp was awesome. I'm the type of person who loves a surprise, a talk show host likes a good talking scene. And yeah, that's a lot of what Garp did. And I thought that he had a really good performance. I thought his dynamic with Kobe was really solid, and that they had this good growth, and that they allowed us to see this very powerful figure who is very complex because he's caring, he wants what's best for people, he can be a hard ass, he can be completely wild. You see these just momentary flashes of Luffy in him, of the insanity.
Yeah.
And that I thought it was done super well, but I know that a lot of the stuff with Garp doesn't happen until later arcs, and that certain aspects of his performance may have varied from some of the source material portrayal. So I'm kind of curious, for you, even if you haven't seen all of it, that what you've seen of Garp, that where do you sort of fall on that one? I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I'm genuinely curious.
Are you talking like in regards to the changes between the live action and the source material?
Just in general, did you enjoy it? That I recognize that if you are going into any adaptation with familiarity from the source material, that will in some ways color your enjoyment of it. And I'm not sure that did those differences, do you think that they were well done? Do you think that it sort of undercut certain things? That people's enjoyment is entirely subjective. So for you? Did you have any emotional response, I suppose, one way or the other on it?
Yeah. Well, so one thing I didn't know about, right? So I watched the episode with Sanji, and I guess, like, because we're discussing the live action, like, I know you put, like, a spoiler warning. I just want to put another one because it's kind of spoilery. But, like, when they're stranded, right?
Yes, during the or wait, are we talking? No, it's not the backstory. Okay,
yeah,
yes, I know what
the backstory. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So yeah, I should have clarified. During like the backstory, during Sanji's backstory with I forgot his name. Zeph. Thank you.
Zeph,
I think it's Zeph. I think it's Zeff. Although
now I need to double check because this is like
yeah,
this is the
Zeph.
Mandela effect. I was like, wait, is it Zeph or is it Zep?
No, you're good. What I was saying, right? So, in the anime for One Piece, in Sanji's backstory, I watched the version I watched, right? And I thought this was like the real uncensored version. Essentially, like, he's swimming to save Sanji after like their shipwreck. Yeah, he's saving to save Sanji, and like his leg got like tied off or like clipped as he was trying to save Sanji from drowning, and that's how I originally thought. Yeah, that's how I thought he lost his leg.
But in the
right?
manga, it was something different, and they used the manga reasoning in the live action. I think that's 10 times more badass.
Well, yes, it is. And the funny thing is, right? So, like, I was on stream, and I thought I thought it was a difference, right? Like, I didn't know that happened in the manga. Like, I literally thought that, like, that's how he lost his leg, it got clipped while he was trying to save Sanji. I didn't know they censored it in the anime. So I was just like, well, you know what? I think I really like how they made the difference between like him eating his leg in the live action and then, like in the anime it's like different, right? Like I mean like it is different in the anime, but like and like I was like that's such a cool difference.
Actually the original.
Yeah. It was the original, and like literally like my entire like literally everyone was like, my entire chat was like, Doxi, no. It happened in the manga.
Oops.
And I was like, oh, my bad. I've been living a lie this whole time. I've been living a lie.
Well, that's part of it, that the anime is in and of itself a adaptation of the manga, and that while usually it's going to be relatively one-to-one, that they do make these changes from time to time.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I think that live actions, like, are standalones, right? So, like, they are taking from the anime, but they shouldn't be, like, direct copies, because you can't just do that, right? Like, if you're adapting, or technically, like, the word for it would be, like, remediating a book into, like, a movie or something like that, you're not going to, you know, take every single page and include an episode for every page, right? So like there's artistic creative, or I forgot what it's called, artistic differences, I guess I could say. Thank you. Artistic liberties. And so like I don't know, I think that they did a really good job. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's One Piece is such an incredible piece of media in that it has lasted so long, in that it has sold so much and done so well. One of the things I sort of look back in terms of history, frankly, is the way that it got sort of fumbled when it first made its way to the West, and makes me wonder, all right, where would One Piece be if 4Kids had never dropped it? Or where would One Piece be if it had had the adaptation that it eventually got as its initial release? And obviously these are multiverses, timelines, whatever you want to call them, that we will never know, but it's so interesting to see how it went, because the way it went, even as it did, is relatively rare. The fact that it started and then got restarted in short order, that this wasn't, okay, it got started, and then stopped, and then 10 years down the line it had a faithful reboot, because we've seen that. But that it sort of went for a year and a half, 2 years, I don't remember exactly how long, then stopped and then rebooted relatively quickly, that it wasn't on hiatus or anything, it just sort of blipped.
It's fascinating, and honestly, like, One Piece is just that good. You know what I mean? I'm so proud of this
couldn't overcome that type of hurdle, that it would just sort of burn out upon its reincarnation, but One Piece obviously then got its proper traction here in the West and has done incredibly well, and who's to say, all right, how well would things have gone if it had been that from the beginning, if 4Kids had kept what they'd done. But it's, like I said, just sort of a fascinating case study because everything about it is so anomalous.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like I said before, like, I think it's like, if not the second highest selling manga series, I think Superman is in front of it, but we're coming for that title. So, like, I don't know. It's cool to see. At
119 volumes, I think it is. It's something absurd that we're well past 1,000 episodes. I think they're closing in on 1,100 or something, and just they're supposedly in the final saga, and sagas, from what I understand, include multiple arcs, and who's to say exactly how many arcs there will be in that saga and how many episodes will be in the arcs of that saga.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, it's really exciting. It's super exciting.
Do you have a favorite character apart from Buggy that, you know, we'll set that one aside, but is there anyone, and I will include folks that haven't debuted in the live action, so just from what you've seen in the anime or anything that you've seen in other places, do you have a favorite character?
I do. This character is a little bit down the line. There's so many characters. I just want to start off by saying there are like a lot of characters in One Piece, right? I'd have to say, yeah, my favorite's Corazon. Yeah, he's basically like, I wouldn't say like Trafalgar Law's mentor. Like, I feel like that's the wrong terminology to use, but like, he was like a father figure. There, I think that's right. Like a father figure for Law, like later down in the anime / manga.
Now
father figure, that is.
I don't know that I don't think I'd heard the name Corazon. I don't think I'd heard the name Law. Like I said, I've heard the... Don't worry. These are names out of context. They aren't spoilers for me because I don't know what they mean.
True. I feel like once... Hold on. I'm going to send you a picture.
Just images right now that he is a good-looking gentleman with blonde hair, a feathery cape. It doesn't even look like a coat. I think it's just a cape. And
I think it is. I cannot remember.
And then this sort of black eyeliner on one side.
Yeah.
But it almost looks like clown makeup, actually. But
yeah. Wow, that's crazy how that correlates. Yeah, that's crazy.
I was saying, it was like, huh, interesting. Little bit of clown in him. I see. What could that possibly mean? But at the same time, it's like, all right, even if I can connect those dots, I don't know where or when they're relevant, so I'm still in the blind.
Yeah, it's I don't want to give any spoilers because backstories are really sacred, I feel like, in One Piece, right?
I did get that from the live action of just every character has something behind them, and that they take their time explaining it, and I very much appreciated that because obviously, surprise, surprise, people have paths, people have memories and a history and some set of events that led them to be where they are at a given point in time, and that they don't just sort of hand wave and say, all right, this person wound up here, that even if they don't follow every single day of a person's life up to where we meet them, that they give us the important part of, all right, what is the defining moment, the defining event of this person and their mentality?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like in One Piece in particular, they have like every major character has like a really kind of I I hate to say it, but like a tragic backstory. Like it truly is. And Corazon, like once again, I don't want to like spoil or anything, but he's a good guy. He's a good guy.
I'm looking forward to meeting him. That if you had to guess,
hopefully we get to him in the live action.
Is Corazon? Is this something that you think we would get in for live action purposes, seasons 2 or 3, or would that be farther down?
No, that would be oh man. I think it's like literally latter part, like the later part of like Doflamingo's arc, which is like one of the farther arcs. So I can say this because it's not a spoiler, I don't think. Actually, you know what? Just for safety reasons, I'm not gonna say it. Yeah, you don't think Corazon would make it, Lettuce? Yeah,
so
yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we're looking at pretty far down the line, and that's gonna be one of the big questions of just. Everyone hopes, obviously, that it does well and that it could be renewed indefinitely, but live action has this little problem that animation doesn't, and it's called aging of actors.
Oh, yeah. I was like, wait, what do you mean? And it's like,
how things could just eventually go of... I know there are various time skips in One Piece, but usually it's not going to be in the order of 15 years. And I'm sure that they'll be able to make most things work, but it'll be interesting if they end up having particular challenges. But that's part of the adaptation, and we'll just hope for the best on that.
Yeah, I think, so they hinted at going to Water 7, which is, I mean, it's pretty up there. Like, Water 7 it's not near, I don't think, 750, but Water 7, exactly, yeah. Like, they did hint at Water 7, which is, a lot of people will say that's, like, one of the best arcs in One Piece.
Heard, in the peripheral vision of arc knowledge, of just, I've heard the name Water 7, and... To confirm, so is it water, as in a singular Water 7, or is it Waters 7? So
Water
7.
Water 7. Yeah,
okay.
Water 7.
I have heard good things about that arc. I've heard pretty good things about the Wano arc. Then again, I don't know if I've heard anybody say that any arc is particularly bad. That's part of why One Piece. Oh, okay, so.
There's debate on some of them. Like, at least for me, I don't know if you heard of, like, the Skypiea arc.
I have heard of that one.
Okay. In particular, like, Skypiea is good, but, like, I skipped some of the backstory with that. And people are like, what do you mean? It's, like, one of the best backstories. But, like, honestly, I don't know. Skypiea... It's not my gig. A lot of people say that the scary arc, I forgot what it's called. The arc where it's like a giant with like the shadows and
One Piece
sounds
fans
really
in chat, please help.
Yeah. No, I know they know what I'm talking about. It's Thriller Bark, thank you. Yeah, Thriller Bark. Yeah. Yep, that's what I was looking for. I was like, wait, like a lot of people say Thriller Bark isn't that good. And like, yeah, but I also really like the genre of Thriller Bark. Like, I feel like we needed a horror arc in One Piece. So, like, that was kind of really fun and it was wacky and we loved it. But yeah, there are some arcs that, like, I don't know what they're going to cut and I don't know how long they're going for. But like, all of these arcs that I'm talking about are literally before Water 7. I believe. I think Water 7... and Enies Lobby, if I'm... Okay, I could be... No, I am incorrect on this. Like, I know there's...
I've heard of Enies Lobby as well. And part of the thing that I enjoy about knowing all these arc names is the names are all so dang creative. There's no consistency to their naming. And out of context, there's no way to guess what the hell's going on. These are...
And that's a good thing.
I love it because, like, I can hear these names and speculating, like, okay, Thriller Bark, maybe there's a dog character, or I don't know, is there a giant tree? Or
Yes.
Water 7. Okay, well, it's the ocean. That could mean anything. There could be a boat named Water 7. Water 7 could be the name of some other group of people. I have no way of actually knowing, but just it's such fun jargon.
It is, and one of my favorites, right? I think this is the arc right before the time skip. It might even be I think it might even be after. I can't remember. I think it was before though. It's called the Saba-Odi arc. And then like the place that they're on is called like the Saba-Odi archipelago. And to this day I'm like, that is like one of the most fun things just to say, like in general. Saba-Odi archipelago. Anyways,
I'm sort of counting. I was like, all right, I think that is so far the longest arc name at 9
Yeah, it's
syllables.
actually really dark. Saba-Odi archipelago. Yeah. It's really long. It's actually kind of really depressing, like what happens in that arc. I wouldn't even say depressing. Like depressing is kind of like putting it lightly. And it's kind of describing it a little wrong. I'd say like tragic, but I don't know. I feel like I sound so Gen Z, like saying that's tragic. That's so tragic.
Well, tell you what, I will spare you from having to dance around all these spoilers, but suffice to say, you are a big One Piece fan, a big Buggy fan, at least for the live action, that I have a lot to look forward to. It sounds like a lot of others have a lot to look forward to as well.
Yeah.
And that if you want to see Doxi with a clown nose, that she does do that sometimes in her streams. But I will shift from one tragedy, one dark thing to another and ask you then about one of... you mentioned to me that you have a holy trinity of games, and then there were 5 pieces of media, 5 anime, and that I had the suggestion of calling, instead of the Holy 5 or the Holy Quint, or...
the Big
Big Five. So, and
the Big Five and the Holy
Trinity.
Trio.
So,
yeah, the Holy Trinity.
So, if that particular arc of One Piece is tragic and dark, how do you describe Madoka? Because I have seen Madoka, but I guess we're using Madoka here as our sort of our barometer, our litmus test.
I see what you're saying.
Arc of One Piece compared to Madoka, is it darker, just a different type of dark, or is it not quite as dark?
Okay, if we're like comparing it to Madoka, it's like a different kind of dark, right? Like I'd say it's equally kind of dark. I'd say it's more a realistic kind of dark, right? Because like with Madoka, you have like, okay, like these are concepts that I could grasp hold to and understand. Like in Saba-Odi, I mean, I guess like this isn't really a spoiler, but like they deal with topics like slavery and like that kind of stuff. So yeah, slave trade, yeah, and auctions. And it's weird to say coming from like an anime, right, that they deal with this kind of stuff, but like yeah, it's like a different kind of dark. So, and I mean, like Madoka is very dark. It's incredibly dark and incredibly serious. But it's with One Piece, like they just go into, like not even just with the Saba-Odi arc, but with other arcs as well. Like they go into like corruption. They go into like privatized wealth. Okay,
well,
now I'm starting to get a little political, and I don't really want to get political, but
dancing around politics, that One Piece, even from the get-go, handles real-world issues. That they make it very clear that not every single Marine is a good person, and that is sort of meant to be the mirror of Luffy being a good pirate, and that you have things of just the entire motivation for Arlong and the fishmen, obviously. That you're handling parallels of real-world issues right there, and that Oda has woven those types of themes into his work from as early on as the Romance Dawn saga.
Yeah, like 100%. And I think like one of the biggest takeaways of like is exactly what you said, right? One of the biggest takeaways of One Piece is like, well, it's funny because the world government is like, if you look at it from an outside perspective, right? Oh, the world government, they're all good. They're trying to protect the people from these crazy pirates who just want to find the One Piece, right? And it gets so blurry in One Piece because you'll see a lot of situations and they go from arc to arc and place to different landmark, I guess, different islands and whatnot. And you'll see it's a different story every time, and that line gets blurred, like incredibly blurred. It's like, well, why are you doing these things? You're working for the world government. You're supposed to be helping our people, not oppressing our people, you know? So it's, yeah. I don't know. It's one of the reasons why I love One Piece so much, just because there are like those real world concepts. But I don't know. I digress.
So for Madoka, did you start watching Madoka closer to its initial release, or did you find it somewhere along the line? Because I learned of Madoka, I don't recall if it was still airing or if it was really shortly after it aired, because this was back in that sort of gray period right as streaming for anime was starting to build up in the West but wasn't quite there. So my guess it was like within a season or two that I had found and seen Madoka. Is Madoka something that you have seen and enjoyed for a while, or is it something that you discovered more recently?
Actually, I started watching anime in like 2014, and I think Madoka came out like in 2010. I would have watched it a lot earlier, but
it was still relatively new at that point in time. And frankly, starting anime in 2014 is when a lot of people started, because that's about when streaming became much more built out in the West. So you are very much not alone there, and frankly, a very good time to start. Never a bad time, but that's a really good time. Like that's the start of a golden age right there.
Well, so I actually started watching anime around that time because Attack on Titan came out, and I remember like I was So like I remember I was in high school, right? And like a lot of the people that like I sat with in class, a lot of the people like I talked to were like being like, "Oh my god, Attack on Titan is so good." And that's like really weird. Because around that time, like I had struggled with like watching Marvel and it being weird in high school, like people like getting bullied for watching Marvel at that time. And now of course like it's weird if you don't watch Marvel.
Mainstream as it gets.
Yeah. Exactly. And anime is kind of becoming like that too. So like at the time, like it still was weird to watch anime, but it wasn't weird to watch Attack on Titan, which is really odd.
It did actually sort of transcend and get into the public consciousness in a way that a lot of anime simply doesn't.
Exactly. And so I was like, I remember, I think like, cause I was still in high school, we were like on winter break, right? So like we, as a family, like we went on a skiing and snowboarding trip, and literally like late at night, I'd be like, okay, I'm just gonna see what this Attack on Titan stuff is about. Like, what is this about? Let's see. And literally, as soon, and I kid you not, as soon as the opening played, I was like, fuck. Well, here we go. I know. Oh my god, it was such a. I remember sitting there and like listening to it like at least 10 times. Like just the opening alone, I was like, yep.
It's one of those.
I'm now an anime fan. The pipeline is evident.
Yeah, and Attack on Titan is one of those shows that I look at and I say, sometimes things get overhyped. This one does deserve the hype. It's really good, and that it just hit right for a lot of things, especially in the West, but also obviously in Japan. But it being something that was so serious and so fantastical, but also with some really good twists, especially early on. You know, episode 5, I haven't seen a chomp that big since episode 3 of Madoka.
Yep. That's always, it's the fun part too, because everyone always says like, oh, okay, and even myself, right? So like when I first watched Madoka, like I did not like it. I was like, okay, what is this? And I dropped it, right? I didn't watch to the 3rd episode. I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I watched, so then I think like a couple years later, I was like, oh, you know what? everyone's raving about this anime. I'm just gonna give it a try. And so like I watched
And
episode
that
3
you
and I
did
was
make
like,
it to that point without being spoiled, so you still didn't know.
I didn't know. Yeah, no, I wasn't spoiled at all. So like when that came, I was like, what is happening? What is happening? And then I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I really like this. And I even got to like the end of it, and you know how I really love my One Piece, right? So I was like, does this top One Piece for me though? Like at the point it didn't, but then I kept coming back to it and back to it, and I was like,
compare a 12-episode series, even if you count the movies. Well, movie that movie 1 and 2 are recaps. Movie 3 is unique, and they just actually debuted the trailer for movie 4, which it's been like 5, 6, 7 years since we had movie 3, and that even if you put all of that together, that's not even a single arc of One Piece, and it's just so difficult to compare when there's that disparity in the sheer volume of content.
Yep. Exactly. And it's like, well, how could you compare when it's literally like 12 versus 1200 episodes? You know what I mean? Like how do you, I don't know.
You just can't.
But
they feel like different mediums at that point in time.
It's true. Honestly, like you could make an argument that they are two different mediums, even though they are technically like they are both anime. They are both animation.
Of short form versus long form storytelling, and that each has its pros and cons. But I usually that I'm the type who favors short term, just because, like we were saying, I'd simply rather watch 100 different stories than one story. And I fully recognize that One Piece is amazing, and I am missing out by not watching the 1,000 episodes, and that is a choice I have made.
Well, it's also a really big barrier, right? Like that's really hard to watch like that many episodes, right? And I totally get it. I think the only reason why I started was because at the time I was in high school. This was after I watched Attack on Titan, and I did have the time to just be like, well, I want to watch, like, I just want to binge 6 episodes. I want to binge 10 episodes of One Piece today, and I had that time. Meanwhile, I had other things I was doing in high school. Like I was in AP classes, I was in sports and athletics and stuff like that. But like I made time to be like, okay, this is One Piece time. We're sitting down. I'm getting my daily dose of motivation for the day. And just slowly but surely, like the number creeps up on you over time.
I have a friend who caught up over the past 3-4 years or so, and that he watched just a handful of episodes a day. And it was just part of his ritual, that hour and a half. And slowly they do add up if you have that determination and consistency.
Yeah. And I'm gonna be real, I was a whole lot more disciplined back then than I am now, but admittedly, but yeah, I don't know, honestly, like it's such a rewarding journey, and that's why I love sorry the live action, just because of the fact that like it's bringing a lot of like mainstream folks into the anime. Like, oh my gosh, this live action is so good. If this is the live action, what is the anime like? What is the manga like? You know what I mean? Like,
there's been
never
a lot
been
of
prouder.
Who have been saying, okay, they didn't necessarily know about One Piece, and now they're getting into the manga or the anime. Meanwhile, we have folks like me who were very aware of it, just didn't want to commit the time. But I saw it and said, oh, I will absolutely put in 8 hours of my time and be able to get in this huge chunk that I will happily keep up with the live action. I still don't plan to watch the anime or read the manga, but that the live action it becomes another option, and that you have these different ways to enjoy this incredible series.
Exactly. It's, and I think you stated it perfectly. It's just another way, right? And you still get to participate in conversations with like, oh my god, that was crazy what happened to Sanji. His backstory is so tragic. You know what I mean? Because it's you know, it's different in some ways, but it's similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and any good One Piece fan would encourage that kind of stuff. Seriously.
Yeah. Hopping back to Monica, so you went in and you finally continued watching, and you saw episode 3, and then it was all downhill from there. And was there a particular part of it that resonated with you, or part of what I know resonated with a lot of people is the fact that it was just so different, that it spawned an entire subgenre. But was there anything in particular for you that just stuck?
Well, I think at the time, I really liked, and I still really like this vibe. IRL wise, like the like the cute but dark kind of. I forgot like what it's technically called. But I really like the aesthetic that like, oh, things are seemingly like really cute, but it's not what it seems. You know what I mean? So that really attracted me. I think like the part with the Homura reveal, that is the part that really made it like my number one, if I'm being honest.
One. The end of episode 11, when they play the opening at the end of the episode, and then suddenly the lyrics have just been entirely turned on their head. And you realize this thing I've been listening to every single episode, and all these inferences, these assumptions I made about the meaning of the words it couldn't be more wrong, that it's entirely messed up. And the way that they were able to write not only the story, but then after the fact, write the intro song to fit that and have the lyrics have that double meaning is so rare. I don't know if I've ever seen something actually have that powerful a double meaning.
I would have a hard time coming up with a similarity, to be honest with you. It honestly, just like thinking about it kind of gives me goosebumps, gives me chills once again. Because I remember like watching it for the first time, I was like, oh no. Oh. This is why she's been doing the thing she's been doing. This is why like she's so mysterious. This is why like she's always kept her distance. And literally like it just, everything made sense. And I was like, this is literally the best thing ever. Oh my god. Let's fucking go. But yeah, I love Madoka so much. And just like, I don't know, I'm a huge magical girl person. Like, I love my magical girls.
That, to what degree did your enjoyment of Madoka get influenced by another of your big five, Cardcaptor Sakura?
I actually watched Cardcaptor after Madoka.
Okay.
I watched it literally when I was in college for my bachelor's degree. I watched it my sophomore year. I didn't watch it when I was younger. And at that time, I was going through a little bit of a harder time. Like, freshman year was really easy. Like, the college transition was a little difficult, yeah. But, like, sophomore year was, like, when, okay, things are getting hard. We have COVID literally lingering around the corner. And here we are. It was kind of just a nice anime to like watch, and just to be like, okay, let me listen to these openings, everything is gonna be okay. It's a feel good anime.
Sometimes
like, ultimately,
you just need something that is sweet and fluffy, that can help take your mind off things and just let you be happy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's ultimately what it was for me. It was literally just that, and also I think Dr. Stone. I think that was around the time I was watching Dr. Stone. Yeah. Or I might have watched it before, but I listened to the Dr. Stone opening a whole lot. I love the Ohio Sakai, good morning world.
Yeah. New season of Dr. Stone actually starts next month.
Oh. I know, like it just came out with some stuff. I actually haven't caught up on it, but I've read, I don't read a lot of manga, but I've read really, really far down the line for Dr. Stone, just because I have a friend who runs like a Dr. Stone, he doesn't only do Dr. Stone, but like a Dr. Stone kind of themed YouTube channel. And so he was like, Doxi, you have to read this. Like, it's non-negotiable. You have to read this. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm reading Dr. Stone. So yeah,
it's not quite as long as One Piece. It's not short.
I mean,
but...
is that a good thing or is that a bad thing, right? Like, I mean, like, and it's hard because Dr. Stone, like, I feel like it could run the duration of One Piece just because of like the plot of Dr. Stone being that like they were petrified and that they have to like essentially restart civilization. Like, it definitely could run as long, but still, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a task to do that, and it's kind of good that they like. Once again, I don't know how it ends yet because I literally stopped reading the manga right before the ending. I did that with The Promised Neverland too. Like I got all the way up to the end, and I just didn't read the end. I didn't read the end for Dr. Stone either, but
Well,
here we are.
Well, I have not read the manga, but I've been enjoying the anime, and
Hell yeah.
it's just continued to be a very high quality bar, and it's been very, very nice. So I can definitely recommend that, and it's been one that's just, it's so different.
Yeah. Like, I would even argue that it is also a feel-good anime in a way, right?
Yes, that it is oozing with optimism. The entire thing is, okay, we're really in post-apocalyptic situations here, and we are restarting scientific progress. With the manual, we know what we need to do, but we are taking these building blocks of science and society and technology, just going all the way down to soap, to basic electricity, to the concept of glass making and building upwards.
Yeah.
And yes, it's very compressed, but the different challenges along the way of, okay, if this goes off the rails, the path of humanity is going to be very, very different, but that by and large everything is very much colored with hope, and that the protagonists are saying, yes, we can do this. It's going to be tough, but we have the knowledge, we have these resources, or we know where to get the resources at the very least, and that this is something that we can do, even if it feels like this insurmountable task of being sent back to the Stone Age.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. Like it's really cool. Like the educational side of it too. So good. It's so good.
Gosh, now I'm really excited for because the place that the previous season ended was a very big cliffhanger, so I'm really looking forward to being able to continue that. So definitely enjoyed that. Now,
I gotta see which cliffhanger it is. I don't know which cliffhanger it is. Ooh, I'm curious. I'm gonna have to look it up.
Now, hopping back to the Tumblr Sexy Man concept, the Tumblr Sexy Man discussion, that I know another next to the big five is Mob Psycho. And I've seen the first 2 seasons, haven't seen the third, but Reagan being one of those finalists along with Sans. What about Mob Psycho? Because, again, a very unique series. But is there something about Mob Psycho that resonated with you in terms of like personal experience, or was it just the characters? Because there is a lot to like there. So I'm curious if there's anything in particular that appealed to you.
So in particular, I mean, like, I think we can all agree that like Mob Psycho is just so like feel good. I feel like there's like a like general theme of like me just really liking feel good, quirky anime as well, because JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is up there. But with Mob Psycho, like I think it's just like the story of like Mob learning to become like a really good person, like that just like makes it like a really like enticing story to follow, right? Mm-hmm. It's such a feel-good anime. It's so feel-good. Anyway.
Well, it's interesting because for me, the first time I watched Mob Psycho, I didn't like it, and I think part of it is because not to the degree that Madoka has sort of this big 180 moment where the entire paradigm shifts at the end of episode 3. Mm-hmm. Mob Psycho, the first time I saw it, I just did not have a good time. I was like, okay, so it's about this dopey, really gullible kid who apparently has a lot of power and has been scammed into working with this total scumbag named Reagan, who seems to have no redeeming qualities whatsoever. I do not like this character, and Mob is just so damn gullible, I'm not feeling compelled by him at all. I dropped it after 1 episode, and it took about a year from hearing from other people, no, wait, Reagan is a scumbag, but the character growth is real, and that this is not just, an episodic installation of what crazy hijinks can Mob and Reagan get into, that there is a deep emotional story attached, and I sort of begrudgingly picked it back up, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think the storyline with Reagan, like, that's a really big one. The storyline with Bob as well. I think the way that season 2 starts, when like literally, um, this one girl is getting bullied by her friends, and she like wrote a story, or she wrote something and they ripped it up in front of her, and then like Mob, like, even though like this one girl, I think this one girl was actually bullying Mob as well, um Mob went up to her and like helped her reorganize her story, like with his powers and stuff. And he doesn't often, like, he doesn't go around parading that he has powers. Like, he's just genuinely trying to improve himself as a person, even disregarding all of his power. Like, it's just the ideas, the concepts, it's so sweet. It's so like just heartwarming. Just a really good anime. But I also think it's hard to get into, right? Especially in the beginning, like what you said. Like, I totally see why you would drop it, because it's so wonky. Like, the first episode is like, okay, what is happening? I don't like where this is going. This is dumb. But then like you have to give it a chance, and you're like, wow, this is like one of the best things ever. Oh my god.
Yeah, it starts in such a strange place that it almost makes you think that it is just a offbeat weirdo comedy, not quite to the degree of Pop Team Epic, but that it is hyper absurd. The characters are very exaggerated, and like I said, Reagan is just not a good person, and Mob is entirely one note. But that's their canvas, and that if you don't give it that chance, you don't get to see what it becomes. And that I can certainly appreciate the progression, but it ends up being sort of a treacherous thing, especially with a piece of media like that, because you risk losing people like me who don't end up going back.
Yep. Because it's also the issue with Monica too, right? Like, it starts off a little like I always like say, right, because my family, like, I have a really fortunate family where they support me with a lot of things, and my dad really likes anime too. So I'll be like, he's always like, what's your favorite anime? I'm like, Dad, I'm gonna be real, we gotta watch like a few more anime for you to be able to continue on with Monica. You gotta build up that anime tolerance before we give it a try here. Like, and I think the same goes with Mob Psycho and a few other anime as well.
I think there was a recent one that had, I don't want to call it the solution, but it had certainly a solution to the problem that Madoka has, in that I think if Madoka were about to be released next year, that it would do what this other series has done. Did you see Oshinoko?
Okay. Okay, yes and no. I'm still watching it. I actually just haven't had time to complete it.
I will rephrase.
I watched,
did you see the premiere of Oshinoko?
Yeah, I did. Yep.
I think that if Madoka were to be released today, they would do what Oshinoko did and just have a 90-minute premiere. And that would be the solution to make sure you don't lose people, because if Oshinoko had its premiere split into 3 normal episodes, people would have gotten to the end of episode 1 and dropped it, not getting to the paradigm shift moment in episode 3.
You're so right for that, though. Like, you're actually so right, because I'm being 100% real with you. And I don't know if Shin is here in chat, but like literally when I watched it, I was like messaging him. I'm like, dude, I don't know why everyone is so hype about Oshinoko. This is so weird. Why? I am so uncomfortable right now.
Just the opening concept of, all right, it's the reincarnated guy and that he's now the kid, and that has a whole bunch of weird connotations to it, and all of that, that it is very akin to Reagan being a jackass and Mob being one note, or Madoka portraying itself as a happy, Genki magical girl series. It's not what the series is.
It's not at all. It's not like a representation of it. And I've gotten, I think halfway through, maybe, the first season, because I don't think the second season's out yet, but it's been announced, I believe.
Yeah.
And if it weren't for the ending of the first episode, I would have dropped it. Like, I'm being so real with you. Like, I would have just been like, okay, this is really, really weird. I don't vibe with this.
Yeah,
Done.
that it was a very smart move on their part to do what they did because just, I remember that week, it's been a long time since I saw a anime premiere sort of come out of left field, and I know that there was the manga and that the manga readers knew, but last year when Chainsaw Man came out, Chainsaw Man felt anticipated. Everyone who knew anime or manga really in any regard had at least heard the name Chainsaw Man because it had been hyped up as the manga adaptation of the decade for a year. Oshi no Ko snuck up on us.
Yep. It's so funny because I think it was actually like a really popular manga as well.
But it just didn't have the vocal fan base or the marketing push that Chainsaw Man did. But that episode drops, and the next day, it's all over just my own social circles. It's on social media of just watch Oshi no Ko. Don't let anyone spoil it for you. Watch Oshi no Ko. Yes, I know it's 90 minutes. Just do it. And that for a couple of days, that was it. And it was this surprising moment of unity when people were actually being tight-lipped and not posting spoilers everywhere.
Yep. It's crazy too, right? To think that no one was posting spoilers. I mean, like, I feel like you'd, like, come across a few bad eggs here and there, but like...
proportionally speaking, most people were very respectful of, this is something special. I'm not going to post about this for a week or two at least.
It's exciting. It's just so exciting. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't finish all of Chainsaw Man either. Just
I finished it. I thought it was
interesting.
Fine. Like, I think it's a solid B+ show. The production values are off the charts. It looks amazing. It sounds amazing. Mappa did a phenomenal job with it. Character-wise, yeah, it's good. It's fine. I don't know if it's really transcendent for me, but hey, I'm not going to yuck someone else's yum, and that a lot of people really do enjoy it, so that's nice. I think it is very, very good. It was not my anime of the year.
Yep, and I'm right there with you. It was not my anime of the year either. I haven't finished all of it. But I mean, the opening slaps.
Oh yeah,
the opening goes so hard.
And
goes so hard.
I love that they went out of their way and did a different ending for each episode. That's super cool. That speaks to the confidence that they put in the budget to commission 12 unique endings. That's not done because it's generally speaking not practical to have that type of budget. But Chainsaw Man did.
And it's just so cool, right? And if we're going back to like Oshi no Ko, I remember like because everyone was raving about it, right? And so I am a part of like a community that really likes to cover a lot of anime openings. They like to sing. And so like everyone was covering this song and I was like, oh my god, I'm hearing it everywhere. I'm so sick of hearing this song. I don't get the hype. And so that to me was like a barrier to entry with this anime. I was like, I just don't want to listen to this opening one more time.
Sort of the horseshoe effect of just, it was so hyped that it was becoming overhyped and a deterrent.
Yes, exactly. And the thing is like, as soon as I gave it a shot, I was like, oh, this is why everyone likes this song. This is why everyone likes this opening. This is very good. And it actually became so good that it became, I think it was like, it like beat out, I think it was Taylor Swift songs. I
forget what it was,
like,
but it topped US charts, not just Japan charts, but US charts, which doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen. So like I was like when I heard that I was like, okay, maybe I need to give this a try. Maybe I need to give it the good old college try. But
yes, I definitely encourage you to, when you have the time, do finish Oshi no Ko. It does continue to be very, very good. But I sort of found it interesting that I'm very interested to see in the next year or two in particular how many series are going to take that cue of drop a 3-episode premiere because there's a certain hook that you can't get to in episode 1. And my guess is we're actually going to see sort of like a pendulum swing where it will be increasing and then it will become overdone for a little bit. And then we will eventually fall back to an equilibrium where a couple of shows will use the strategy, but it won't be hopefully overused. But I wouldn't be surprised if in a year or two that we have a couple seasons where we're like, okay, why is everything a 90-minute premiere? And that's too much.
Yep. I would love everything to be a 90-minute. Like, oh, but I don't even know. It's so hard, right? Like, depending on the anime, I do think that, like, you should be able to accomplish something like a hook within like 20-ish minutes, right? But like in certain cases, like Oshinoko, you need that 90-minute. And like that's perfectly fine. It's just a matter of like keeping your audience. You know what I mean? So up for debate.
It'll be interesting, but
yeah,
I'm happy that they found that strategy because I think there are a number that will benefit from it, and we'll see how that particular trend goes. But you mentioned JoJo's. That's one that I've seen the first part and like a bit of part 2, and then just dropped because I thought it was similar to Chainsaw Man. I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was phenomenal. But that's another one that I look at and say, I think I need to go back and give it another shot because I know that it gets really, really good, and that it is certainly one of those series that just so many people swear by, and it's not quite as long as One Piece, that I'm not as intimidated, even though it has 6 parts at this point.
Yeah, I feel like there's also a little bit of a barrier to entry with JoJo's as well, just because part 1 is a little rough. Like, if I'm being real, unless you're moist critical and you love part 1 better than all the other parts, or I think it's part 2 technically, but he does also really like part 1. Then by all means. But I don't know, JoJo's, like, it was the same case with like Madoka. Like I didn't like it at first. It literally took me a month to get through 9 episodes, and then literally after that I was like, oh, this is getting good. Like, Araki is starting to figure out what he wants to do. And by the time he gets to, like, season 4, I feel like, especially towards the end of, like, or part 4. Sorry, my bad. Part 4. I mean, part 3 is very good as well. It just depends on, like, if you're willing to sit through, like, a monster of the day kind of, like, anime. But... that rhymed. But, like, I don't know. I think part 4 is actually really good, and part 5 is very good as well. Part 5 is, like, in my opinion, the best. Very good. Very good anime.
Like I said, I know that I eventually need to get to that one. Have you ever seen a picture of Araki-sensei, the author, creator of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
Yes.
I am convinced that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is actually a biography. He is Dio because that man does not look 70 years old. He is a vampire, I'm telling you. He
really doesn't. He isn't. Oh my god, that's actually so funny. He's just recounting his own tale. Oh my god.
Because think about Dio. Dio is so vain, so self-absorbed. What would he do after surviving all these years? He would make an anime about himself. And then just to throw people off the trail, he would make himself look like the villain.
So meta of you. Yeah, that's so true though. He would. He really would.
I don't usually get that type of crazy headcanon, but then the first time I saw a picture of Araki-sensei, I had to backtrack. I was like, wait, no. I know that JoJo's has been around for like 30 years. When did he write? Did he write it as a teen or something? He looks like he's 40. Go to Wikipedia and he's like 68 at the time or something. It's like, no way. That man's not 68 years old, or however old he is now.
Yeah.
It is absurd.
He literally looks so good. Like, it's crazy. It's genuinely crazy. He aged like fine wine, which you can make an argument that
he's 63. So I saw when he was like 58, but even so, I looked at him and was like, he's not 58. That man looks like he's 30, 40. He looks very young.
Still, he looks very young. Like, I'm just looking up pictures of him right now to remind myself, and I'm like, yeah, this guy is like, he's looking good. This guy's looking very good. I think Araki's favorite character in JoJo's, I think he mentioned it was Rohan. Rohan Kishibe, he's in part 4. And it makes sense. Rohan is like, this isn't a spoiler. Let's just say that like he opens like I think one of the first things you see with Rohan Kishibe is him licking a spider. So it gets really weird. It gets really wonky. I think Araki plays around a bit with just Rohan, and then also part 4. It's really wonky. I can't recommend it enough. Yes, you need to watch part 4. You need to watch part 5. Cannot recommend it enough. Funny. It's actually really scary, but when he does that, but like it's like, what is happening? What is happening and why?
Was there a particular moment with JoJo's that you mentioned that somewhere around episode 9 was that turning point? Do you recall what it was? Was there a particular scene, a character?
I think it was Joseph, if I'm being realistic with you. Joseph Joestar. He's the main character of part 2, where I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this a try. I'm actually gonna go through it, and I'm gonna give it a try, because like there's this part where like it's just the setting of it all, right? He's just so over the top, and you could really start that like the real crazy JoJo's caricature is like starting to form, especially with part 2. Part 1 was a little rough, but yeah.
Goodness knows, just the style and the music. Obviously, the music, half the characters are named after music, or attacks are named after musical concepts. And that it's really cool to see that one in particular be adapted. That I have to imagine that I know it began as a manga, but it feels like something that was meant to be an anime. And that just when Araki initially made it, that he didn't have the notoriety, the funding to make an anime, so the manga is going to be the next best thing. But just for how much style and musical influence, it feels like it needs to be in a medium where music can be part of it.
Yep. And just the openings alone are very good as well. Oh my god, the JoJo's openings. Especially when you put like SFX in there. I think that's what they technically call it, is SFX. Where it's like you have this opening, right? And the music is playing, but like if there are chains going on, like you hear chains, right? Or like if someone falls down, you hear like the boom as they fall down. Like it's those kind of things that just like up the opening.
Yeah, that it's
to
not just
like
a
new
clean
levels.
music video, that they actually have the animation be part of it, and that it is not, oh, we happen to be showing some of this footage while playing this song, that it is a cohesive unit. It is a whole piece of art at that point.
Yes, exactly. It's so good. So good. Very, very good. Anyways.
I've listened to the soundtrack of Part 5 just on its own, without having seen the series. The
Fighting Gold. Yeah.
It's very, very good. So, and that's something that, for me, that I just enjoy music and soundtracks in general, whether it be anime, video games, movie soundtracks. So I do seek those out, and that sometimes I will listen to things that I haven't even seen or played, just because the music finds its way to me and that the music is so good.
Yep, 100%. And I mean, like, in regards to like the part 5 opening, like it really is that hype. Like that opening is really hype, and the anime is just as hype as the opening. Like it's so good. So good.
So that rounds out your big 5 for anime, but then you mentioned to me that there's this one other series that you really enjoy, and I think in 125 episodes, I've maybe spoken about it once, possibly twice, but that for you, when we were talking earlier in the week and this particular title came up, that you just lit up, and that it's one I'm not super familiar with, but I am 100% okay with spoilers on this one, so go crazy about Percy Jackson.
Yeah, Percy Jackson, man. That it's really exciting because they're coming out with a new TV series.
Yes.
So
we had the movie, and I saw the movie,
yes,
and the movie was fine. Didn't get a second one, if memory serves, but
it did.
Did it? Oh.
Yeah, it had the Sea of Monsters, but the Sea of Monsters arguably is worse The movie is worse than the first movie, arguably. But if you just, once again, if you look at them as like standalone movies, like I think they're perfectly fine. They're still enjoyable to watch. It's just like for some things, it's like, why is a son of Hermes able to walk on a wave of water like a son of Poseidon is? Like, why? How? Where's the logic? Why are they literally fighting on a wave? I don't know. It's really funny. Anyways, Percy Jackson, if y'all haven't read it, go read it. It is very YA, I will say. Like, the writing is very young adult. But in a lot of cases, like, that's good, right? Like, sometimes you need, like, something to just be simple and something to just have fun with. And with Percy Jackson, like, it's a whole journey, right? Like, you literally get, like, the start of this kid who's very, like, not very confident in himself, and he goes to being like one of the biggest scariest people within, by the end of the story, just, I guess, demigods, as you would like say within like the series. There's so much I could say about Percy Jackson,
it's
and
literally
also
an
the
odyssey.
series that comes after. Which,
So-
by the way, I have not read Odyssey. I have not read Homer.
I read that
Iliad
back
and the
in
Odyssey.
high school, and it was very long.
You read the Odyssey in high school?
Yep, I think it was senior year of high school.
Oh my god.
But
You poor man.
it still was not as bad as some other books that
Yeah, really?
Heart of Darkness made me want to pull my hair out.
Oh, I read Heart of
I could not-
Darkness. Yeah.
That was what got me about that book was just the style of its writing was so obtuse. At least Shakespeare
Okay.
has logic and rhythm behind it.
Yeah.
Shakespeare needs to be read aloud, needs to be heard, not
It does,
read in
yeah.
text. And as soon as you hear it out loud, it makes sense. Heart of Darkness,
Mm-hmm.
the way that it just... I remember having to reread passages 3 times, and this was AP literature. I'm fine with grammar and reading and words, and it made me have to do triple takes.
And like I feel like if we're getting into like what books they're teaching kids, like honestly, I feel like that's a very complex text. I think it's difficult sometimes for high school kids to and I did
Oh, to be
AP
clear,
literature as well.
I think it was a fine...
But
I don't have a problem with it being an education. I just didn't enjoy it. This is purely personal.
this is a personal vendetta. Like
Hey,
that's so funny.
if somebody out there enjoyed Heart of Darkness, said I acknowledge it for the literary piece it is, and that it is significant in several ways, and that it is complex and does a lot of things with literary devices, and I respect it for that. I don't think it's a fun read.
Well, it's funny because like I remember I think at one point we had to read Great Expectations by Charles Dickens, and a lot of people notoriously hate that book. But I was the one who was like, I like this. But then I hated a lot of the other books that we had to read, right? Like it's really difficult sometimes to just push forward with those books. And that's why Percy Jackson is a nice alternative. Not to like teach or anything like that, but I mean like it's just like it's a really quick read. It's really fun. Oh my god, I read Percy Jackson like even before I watched anime. Like this was like my fandom kick. Like I always say it's like the fandom that started all of the fandoms, right? Because it was the first thing that like introduced me to like really just cool characters that I loved and held dear to my heart, especially my dear old Nico D'Angelo. I love that character, and they just and Rick Riordan just came out with a new series called I think it's The Sun and the Star, and it's basically about just Nico D'Angelo, this son of I guess I'm not gonna say because that's kind of a spoiler.
I'm totally fine with spoilers on this series. I appreciate you going out of your way for me with One Piece. Spoil away on Percy Jackson. I'm not worried about this, and here's your fair warning to anybody in chat, but I'm also sort of hedging my bet here. that the number of people who will be upset about Percy Jackson spoilers is going to be relatively low.
Okay. Well, if you are, just let me know. But so this new book series I was talking about, right? The Sun and the Star. Nico D'Angelo is gay, and he also is the son of Hades, right? This new book that Rick Riordan wrote is a book with an adventure with Nico D'Angelo and his boyfriend Will Solis, who is a child of Apollo. So it's a nice dichotomy of like, okay, how it's like, especially when you realize that like the target audience of this book is for kids, you know, around middle school, in high school, stuff like that, who may be going through similar things of like, wow, this isn't really accepted by my family. Me and my like boyfriend going through, and it shows a lot of the problems that they face. Like it's just such, it's giving a voice to that kind of audience, right? And it's so funny too, because I think like in one of the first pages, he like it was like dear, I forgot what it was. It could have been like a review, it could have been something, but it said, "Don't mess this up for us." But yeah, it's so good. And that's the thing too, like Bakamik, with Rick Riordan stuff, and I could be mispronouncing his name. I've always been mispronouncing it. Pronounce his name correctly. He's very much so involved in the TV series that is going down. I don't know how long they're gonna go for, just like with the One Piece live action. I don't know. It's so exciting because we have like the One Piece live action that's going on, and then we have the Percy Jackson series, right? And that's literally gonna go on for hopefully the entirety of the, I think it's like 5 books within the first
There's a fair amount of content to work with. Not quite as extensive as One Piece, but it will be multiple seasons if all goes well.
Yes. And the fact that Rick Riordan is very much so involved as well, that really helps.
Yeah.
Like,
surprise,
it really
if you
helps
have the original author of a series involved in your adaptation of that series, you're more likely to have a successful series.
That's
Who'd have thunk
crazy. Who would have thought? Especially with like One Piece, same scenario. Like Ichiro Oda is very much so involved in the live action, and it's good. That's crazy, bro. Who would have thought? Whoa, including the original source, like creator. Like that's
the person
crazy.
who knows the content better than anyone, because yes, they literally made it.
That's actually insane.
It's frustrating that it has taken this long for us to get that in a lot of ways, and that
right?
I understand in certain aspects why it hasn't happened in the past, that in certain circumstances the author doesn't have interest in being part of the adaptations, that just either they are focused on the next proper installment of the source material, or just they're in their own way burnt out on just, okay, I am fine with you giving me a large sum of money to take this material, and that I don't necessarily have the interest in being hands-on, that I hope you do well, but I've made my successful thing at the end of the day, and I am going to trust that in your own self-interest you will do your best with it. And even then, even if there is self-interest in that, obviously nobody is going to set out to make a bad adaptation and waste millions upon millions of dollars, that they are not going to be as likely to succeed if they don't have a guiding hand.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. It's hard because with the original like Percy Jackson movies, right? I think they were going to involve Rick Riordan with the movies, but then they switched it around and literally like just gave him the script and saying like, no, this is what we're doing, like this is what you're doing, and you don't have any say. And he actively like went out of his way to be like, yeah, no, I hate this. Like he actively like went on like social media. He did. Yeah, it is the worst.
You see that every so often, where the author of the source material will say, yeah, I knew they were doing this and I warned them not to, but I didn't have any authority and they did the thing anyway. Sorry.
Exactly. Yep. Very frustrating. It's incredibly frustrating, especially like for the author to see their work just taken. And it's rough. It's
The business analytic showrunner side of me is always curious. I'd love to see the differences in licensing contracts today versus 10 years ago versus 20, 30, 40 years ago, because there's so many different aspects, and that to what degree are these stipulations for original author consideration written in of, okay, licensee agrees to not publish material without written permission from licensor, or just to what degree is there certain allowances, or okay, the author may ask for a certain number of rewrites, but past X dollars spent on project, the licensee has the right to release the product without permission or something. That I have no idea how these are done, but it makes me wonder, how do these agreements end up coming to terms, and what terms nowadays are results of things gone right and wrong from older agreements?
Yep. Yep, that would be something interesting to look into. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm sure it's a lot different, and it doesn't help now that there's a writing strike. Oh yeah, by the way, that's crazy how there's a writers and actors strike, and yet we're still getting Percy Jackson in December.
Well, my guess is it was already in post.
Yeah, actually, I think you're exactly right there. Like, it was announced a really long time ago. I was thinking it was gonna be coming like in 2025, but it's here, and we love it, and we love it for that.
Usually, movies and series end up finishing filming about, can be anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half, even longer sometimes, before they actually get released. So all the stuff that we're getting right now is stuff that was wrapped in filming, and that the marketing teams are not on strike, the After Effects artists are not on strike, sound engineers are not on strike, etc., etc. So that's how all this other stuff is happening. But what's going to happen is, in about a year, year and a half, there's going to just sort of abruptly be this void, or at the very least a smaller amount of things coming out there, that companies are likely to rearrange their release schedules and take certain things that might be done now or be done in the next 6 months and say, we're going to wait a year to release this when we know there's going to be this void, and that they're just going to sort of backfill things.
Yeah.
Inevitably, there will probably be, in a summer or two, just, wow, why does it feel like there's no good movies coming out right now? Why are there so few new releases coming out on new networks? And that's going to be the strike catching up with us. But right now, we still have enough backlog that we're getting what feels like a entirely normal slate of releases, because all of that has been ready.
Exactly.
Yeah, fingers crossed, because just, in general, it's not political to say, I want people to get along, get an agreement done, and that we want things to get working again. And that, without diving into the nitty-gritty there, I hope that we see a solution sometime soon.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope we get like a lot of Percy Jackson content, as well as like One Piece live action content. We can only hope. We don't know what's in the works ultimately, but yeah.
I do know that for One Piece in particular, that the showrunners said in an interview that they have the scripts for season 2 done. That whenever the strike ends, that they can basically start filming. That they might have a couple final edits to go through, and that obviously the process of everything will take a while, but the showrunner said that the estimate is, from the time that the strike ends, it will probably only take 12 to 18 months to actually have the next stuff airing, because they do have the scripts at the very least ready. You have most of the casting done already. Obviously, there's going to be the new folks, but they have a lot of it already just set to go, and they're waiting for the green light.
It's all about waiting for that green light, man.
Are there any series, new or old, that you would love to see revived, that you would love to see get a green light, that haven't had one in a while?
a really good question. Off the top of my head, no. Oh, you know what would be kind of cool? And this is kind of like way back in the day, and I don't know if this would actually work, but what if there was like an Aragon?
Aragon? Oh, wow.
What if there's an Aragon run? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like that would be fun. Like...
Now, that one, I know, had one movie, and that did not do well.
Yeah, I liked the movie, okay? I thought the movie was good, but I also watched it when I was younger, so maybe I'll rewatch it and be like, ugh.
There have been plenty of movies that I remember I watched when I was a kid and was like, oh yeah, this is super fun, this is great, and then you go back and you're like, oh wow, I have to thank my parents, they were super patient sitting through this with me.
Yep. Like, I think there were like some... Oh, you know what? I lied. There's a series that I think really deserves to get like a rerun, like a proper rerun. Or not like a rerun, but like a good live action series, I guess you can say. And that's the Shadowhunter series, because the TV show that came out for the Shadowhunter series was like genuinely not good. Like, it was so bad. They really did not pay attention to what was in the book, and you don't have to, you know what I mean? But even just as a standalone, it was not good. It really was not good. And I think it deserves at least like a little bit more love. Maybe not even from just like the main like Cleary and Jace like characters storylines, because with Cassandra Clare's stories, there are literally so many different storylines, like with different characters, and maybe you could choose something different.
Because I'm unfamiliar with the series, but then I saw the subtitle, which is the book series title, The Mortal Instruments, because I have a friend who adores that series, and that I have heard of that, and I know it has a very big fan. And quick glance at Wikipedia, that there's 3 seasons of Shadowhunters, but that you and my guess is some broader degree of fandom didn't care for this particular adaptation. What about it was different? That obviously we've gone through the spectrum of types of things that can be changed and that it can be okay, but what went wrong here?
I haven't seen all of it, right? But like the things that I have seen, because I couldn't get through it. It doesn't, like what I said, like it doesn't stick to the main source material. And also just like, I don't know, it's really, the way they do storylines, like it's really cringy. It's not, I feel like it's not it's like a CW TV show, you know what I mean? Like with like you know how like the Flash get like the beginning Flash, like the first season I think is okay, but then like it gets a little like, okay, what is even going on? Like it
just
strays
sort of goes
from
off the rails.
Exactly. It goes off the rails, I think.
Feels like one of those anime that catch up to the manga and then do their own thing and just don't know what they're doing, that you can tell, okay, the writer here is different because it's no longer the source material writer, it is the adaptation writer working with what they have, and it's not the original anymore.
Yeah, and like I think you can stray from the original source material, but like in this case it was like so far, at least from what I can remember. I couldn't tell you particular scenes. I just remember being really frustrated with it. And then like of course just it's so, I don't know, once again, so cringy.
If you were to be overseeing this reboot, just imagine that you have enough budget, that you have a very just exorbitantly large budget. Are there 1 to 3 specific things that you would change beyond just the script will be better for the original material? Would you want to change something about the actors, the sets? Is there any other part of it that you would really want to see them put more polish on?
I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you. I really don't know. I'd say I feel like you could try doing a different series. Like everyone uses the first Mortal Instruments, like the City of Bones series. Like I would love for them to do like a Infernal Devices series with completely different characters and then follow that storyline, because in my opinion, the Infernal Devices was better than everything I've read so far. It's really freaking good. And I think it was wrote after the Mortal Instruments too. I think the Mortal Instruments was first. One thing that's really interesting about the Cassandra Clare series is that like it's a timeline. So like everything is connected all together, kind of like how One Piece is. Like a character within one series is really important, and is mentioned in a series like before their time or something like that. Like ancestors become really important because it's like, oh, like for example, the Infernal Devices was in I think like the 1800s. If I could probably be incorrect.
We've sort of danced around the plot itself here. Like I said, I'm
yeah.
very vaguely
Sorry, I didn't explain that.
You're good. But sell me on Mortal Instruments. What is the story here? Don't worry about spoilers. Books have been out, series has been out. This is not a particularly new one. So what is this series and what grabbed you?
So, I'll talk about the I'll talk about like the general plot or the general world, right? Because there are a whole bunch of different plots. Yeah, it takes place in Victorian England. Have you read it? Bakamik, have you read it? Oh my god. Please, I need someone to know. But anyways, so I'm getting ahead of myself. The story basically exists in a world where there are demons, right? And there are a whole bunch of different races. Like there are werewolves, there are vampires. It's like kind of that typical novel. There are werewolves, vampires.
Setting.
Yeah, high fantasy. There are, which this is my favorite. They have what they call the Fae. And it's not like what you typically think about, like fairies and stuff like that. But like they are kind of more elegant, and they have elegant features and whatnot. And then they also have shadow hunters, which is interesting. If you look at my design, shadow hunters are half angels and half demons.
You don't say.
Yeah. Oh wait, hold on. I could be wrong with this. I don't think they're half demons. Sorry. I think it's sorry. They're not. Okay, actually, they're not. I think shadow hunters literally just have angel blood in them. Yeah, they're not half demons. Actually, the reason, and they also have warlocks. Warlocks have demon blood in them. So shadow hunters have angel blood in them, and then warlocks have demon blood in them. Basically, yeah. So I was a little bit wrong there. But they're called the Nephilim. The shadow hunters are called the Nephilim. Yeah, but basically it's just about like the Nephilim fighting demons. But you know, with every single story, there's like a main antagonist, and if we're talking about I don't know, it's been so long since I've read it. Yeah, it gets deeper. It gets a lot deeper, but that's basically like some summary of like each of the world, if that makes sense. I could go into like the Mortal Instruments,
I guess,
but
what about this story really hit you? That we talked earlier that you said some of the series in the Big Five for anime is that they are very upbeat, positive, optimistic series. I'm not necessarily getting this from Mortal Instruments, but I could be wrong.
Well, okay, so I do like the Mortal Instruments. Every single series takes place in a different city, right? So you have the Dark Artifices that takes place in LA. You have the Mortal Instruments that takes place in New York. You have the Infernal Devices, which is my favorite, which takes place in London. And I think there are actually 2 series that take place in London. I have the books literally right next to me because I love them so much. I love them the same amount as I do the Percy Jackson series. In fact, I don't know which I love more. But with the Infernal Devices, right? It's just very, I love, I really love the characters. Like, I love Tessa, I love Jem, I love Will, I love the dynamics that they have. And of course, with every supernatural story, there has to be a juicy romance to it. I
can't tell if
I'm dead.
I can't tell if that is you leaning into that particular trope and that it is just legitimately good, or if this is actually one of the parts that is not necessarily as good.
It's good. It's good. I promise you, it's good. In some cases, like the Mortal Instruments, though, it's kind of bad. Just because it goes into really weird spaces. Like, I am convinced that like Cassandra Clare likes incest or something. I don't know. It's really weird. Because like there are a lot of like really weird cases in the Mortal Instruments, and it's really iffy. But with the Infernal Devices, it's very nice. Also, hello, Anime Uproar. How are you doing? It's nice to see you, Animec. What do you mean? She likes Cassandra Clare. I will fight you on this, sir. Do you not like Cassandra Clare? I will literally go to war with you on this. I mean, honestly, like some of your opinions might be valid though, because like her work is kind of concerning at points. But I don't know. I digress.
So Cassandra Clare here being the author.
Yeah, Cassandra Clare is the author. Yeah, Cassandra Clare is the author. Like she co-writes a lot of her stories, just like how Rick Riordan co-writes a lot of his books. But yeah, she's like the main creator of everything. But it was also alleged that she stole her stories from like, because I think she got her start on Wattpad or something like that, and then I think she stole from other people. So like, but I also really respect her because it's not easy to complete such an in-depth series. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I don't know. Regardless of everything that is alleged, I freaking love these books so much. They were also one of like the biggest series that like really helped me get me through like my childhood. I digress, and I still read them to this day. Like what I said, like I'm still reading through some of them. But yeah,
that's cool. Just it's not every day that you have a series that you grow up with that remains good over time, the one that ages gracefully in terms of, you know, just writing, characters, production values if it's a visual media. Authors obviously have their ups and downs, and that being able to return to something that had meaning for you as a kid and still being able to enjoy it and not just sort of skim over and be like, oh yeah, I had good memories, I don't particularly vibe with this now, but being able to actually just still go back and say, yeah, this is as good as I remember it, is really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really cool series, and now I feel as though I have to fight Animac on this. I am writing a diss track as we speak, bro. I'm gonna write a diss track to your diss track. Take the L. And honestly, though, like, you're kind of valid, but take the L. I will defend this. I kind of feel bad defending this, but like, it's fine.
That ends up being part of fandom, though, nowadays. That there are differences in opinions, there are different divides, there are different factors for, you know, any number of reasons, internal and external to a series, and some good, some not so good, and it creates for an interesting age in fandom for sure, and that obviously sometimes things come to light that can end up tainting a series, and that just as people who consume media, that we have to figure out where to draw our individual lines. And I'm not going to delve too far into it, but it is an interesting thing that, especially over the past half decade or so, has really, I think, become a bigger part of fandom conversation, and that going through just really the past 2 decades, that if you grew up with the internet, as we did, just fandom in and of itself, that you mentioned that Percy Jackson was really sort of your first fandom, that first time that you wanted to continue to interact with the series, its characters, and what it stands for outside of the bounds of the content itself. And that, in my opinion, is the crux of fandom, of just wanting to go out of your way of, after you have read the thing, watched the thing, to continue discussing and analyzing, in some cases creating, whether it be content that is reviewing, analyzing in its own way there, or whether you're cosplaying, writing fanfic, doing art. That fandom is a beautiful thing, and it ends up being one of the things that gets discussed most on Vtuber Talk, because everyone has some fandom that means something to them. And what fandom for someone on a series means is going to vary from person to person, that what One Piece means varies from person to person. Some people hold One Piece in a very high regard, some people hold a bunch of other series in a very high regard, and that ends up being part of just sort of who we are as individuals, or at the very least, it ends up becoming an interesting lens to see differences in just opinions and the types of things that resonate with people. And that's what I enjoy about it so much, just from a host perspective, from a conversationalist perspective, and that sometimes things aren't always super clean, but that's life. Life isn't always clean.
Yep, I agree with you there.
Going in sort of a different direction here, because we have talked about fandom for a good hour and a half now.
Yeah.
And if you are interested in hearing more of Doxi's opinions on anime and other things, that it is definitely a regular point of conversation on her channel, so do be sure to follow her. If for some reason you aren't already, links are here at the bottom of the screen in the channel panel. If you're watching on Twitch, it'll be in the video description on YouTube. Hi, YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And here is... shout out. There we go. Yeah.
Thank you for the shout out. And once again, thank you for having me on. I'm having a lot of fun talking about these things.
The pleasure is all mine. But moving from the content fandom area of things into some more IRL interests, that one piece, pun not intended, but there you are, of you that at least I haven't seen or heard about watching some of your streams, but that you mentioned was a big part of what you did, even if not now, but growing up, that you did cheerleading for a while. And this being more competitive style cheer, so not necessarily what you're going to see on the sidelines at football games, but rhythmic gymnastics is not going to be the proper term, because rhythmic gymnastics is its own separate thing technically, but that it is the perhaps more showmanship version of cheerleading, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, so I could say, just to like sum it up real quick, you basically compete 2-minute and 30-second routines with other organizations across the US. So we were like a travel team. We did travel to, like, I went to NCA down in Texas. We went to Vegas for a few competitions. The big one is Worlds down in Florida, and then also Summit down in Florida, which with the Worlds competition, it's basically, to put it into terms, because cheerleading, this form of cheerleading, not the sideline cheerleading, but the really high intense, like throwing gymnastics stuff, and then also like stunting, like really scary stuff. It's not in the Olympics yet, which to me is shocking, because it is.
We already have what could effectively be considered water cheerleading in synchronized swimming, that it is very much similar concepts of showmanship, athleticism set to music. But now I'm curious.
I disagree.
Okay.
Yes.
Please correct me. I'm genuinely curious, because to me, as someone who's not been involved with either, I look at these two forms and see a relative amount of similarities. I want to know where I'm wrong. I genuinely want to know.
Of course. So I 100% am here to clarify some things. So the only reason why I want to clarify some things is because, like, this is one of the biggest things that I've like participated in with my life for about like 10 years. And leading up to essentially going to that Worlds thing. But basically with competitive cheerleading, I think the differences here is, like, with the sport that you mentioned, it's like, it's dance, you know what I mean? Which, like, I get that. We do have dance in like our routines, but this is like high octane. Like, I am tumbling across the floor, and I have to go at the specific time, because if I don't, the person who's tumbling after me is going to tumble on top
be
of
very
me
injured.
and be very injured, or I'm gonna be very injured, which actually happened at one point. I did break my back and my arm with this kind of stuff.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah. And the kind of stunts that we have as well, like, you don't kind of see those things within those kind of sports. Like, these are things where like if you threw a girl like really high up in the air and just kind of walked away, like she could essentially like really hurt herself,
you
like
could end up with broken
paralyzed
bones at best,
or like
paralysis or worse. And
yeah.
as you go through that, I sort of realize that yes, you're right, that my initial analysis, for lack of a better term, was sort of based on the core concepts of that there is music, motion, coordination in a large group format. I wasn't going to compare it to something like skating routines, which might be a bit more high octane than synchronized swimming, certainly not as high octane as cheerleading, but that's usually in a singles or doubles format, which is going to be very different from large groups, which is what you see in synchronized swimming and cheer. But the simple fact that, borrowing your terminology, just high octane, the intensity of cheer versus synchronized swimming it's a different paradigm. So I understand that, and I see how I overlooked it, and I appreciate you pointing that out.
Yeah, and I think ice skating, like, it is also kind of scary as well, just because like I've heard horror stories of like them trying to grab their leg and then piercing their head open because they them trying to like do a scorpion or something and grabbing their leg, and their leg accidentally like hit their head, but you know their foot literally has a blade on it. Like, I've heard horror stories and stuff like that. It's just the reason why like I am kind of I don't know the right word for this, but wanting to make sure that like I'm explaining myself properly here is because a lot of people see cheer as like high school sideline stuff, right? Like, oh, look at them on the sidelines, it's so easy,
since
you know.
have the overlap of terminology, and that was something that I do recognize and that I went out of my way to clarify at the beginning. But you're absolutely right that those are two very different activities, and I can appreciate you being, I don't know if protective would be the right term, but perhaps deliberate and clear that your reaction there, it tells me that this is a good topic of conversation, that it means something to you, and I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I did this for like a really long time in my life. I did this for like 10 years, and yeah, it's very scary. It's very serious thing as well. Because a lot of people, they don't take cheerleaders seriously, and I want to explain that it is something to be taken seriously. Because it was a really big form of exercise.
Where does cheer start for you? When did you get into that? Did you see somebody else doing it and say, I want to do that? Was it perhaps an interest in dance or gymnastics that then led down a cheer path? There's any number of ways you could have wound up there. How did you wind up there?
So I mean, like, I was gonna do gymnastics. This is like when I was a little bit like a wee young Paradox. And we essentially we had this thing where we were like, my parents both coached, right? And so like it was like my mom was a cheerleader before, and she really wanted to like, hey, do this, but we actually liked it, so we were like, okay. So then we essentially we decided, like, literally last minute, like literally the day of that, like we were trying out for gymnastics, we went and excuse me. Nope, it didn't happen. Okay, I almost sneezed. Yeah, I was like, nope. But yeah, but then like literally the same day we were like, okay, let's do cheers. And we started doing like all-star kind of stuff like that, and realized this is what we want to do. And a lot of the skills were really hard for me. I wasn't a natural at it like my siblings were, but I digress.
So you mentioned that you were going to go out for gymnastics. Was this a case where you canceled the gymnastics audition, didn't do that at all, audition for cheer instead, or did you do 2 auditions instead of 1?
Yeah, no, we did both of them, right? So I auditioned for gymnastics back in the day. And then same day, we went out and auditioned for cheer last minute because we didn't know if we could do it, monetarily wise, but because it's very expensive. But we ended up going with cheer, and thank God, because I'm gonna be real, I would have broken more bones on that beam. Like that is, I would have not been able to make it through gymnastics. But yeah.
So I see it mentioned by somebody else in chat. Solix42 mentioned marching band. I did marching band as well. And again, there is a very significant difference here between these 2 activities, that marching band is not going to be quite as high octane as cheer. There's a couple different mechanics in marching band that don't exist in cheer, and that they mechanically are very different, but they have a lot of similarities in that they are large group activities that require a great deal of commitment, and that you do end up spending a lot of time with the people that you are on those teams with. And I have to imagine that over those 10 years that you hopefully became very close with a lot of people on that team, and that you made a lot of memories along the way.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and I had, when I was in school, I had a lot of friends who did, like, marching band, and I always looked up to them because, at least with, like, our cheer practices, we had a facility, we had a gym, and the gym was air-conditioned most of the time. So, yeah, it was very nice. It was very nice, and we had, like, a whole bunch of space to do the things that we needed to do, and the technology, the equipment that we needed to use as well. So that was very nice. With marching band, y'all were outside in the sun, and that to me is rough as hell. Like, I am so I melt under the sun over like all circumstances. I just melt. So I mean, different strokes for different folks. Yeah, marching band, it seemed like so fun though. Like, I'm not like a huge football person, but like if I ever did go to like football games,
I watched football games throughout high school and college. I still couldn't tell you what the halfback is. I can identify the quarterback, the kicker. I know what a field goal is. I know what a touchdown is. I know what a safety is.
I don't even know what the safety is.
I don't know what the safety position is. I know what safety getting 2 points in the other end zone is. I don't know what the safety position is. Yeah, and that's after watching for 8 years, literally from the sidelines, so don't worry. But throughout your time in cheer, did you have a favorite show that I know that it can vary, that I'm guessing you probably did 1 show per season or per year?
Well, I cannot...
that's... yes.
Well, so I can't tell you what gym I was at, and I can't... Yeah, well, the thing is like, I wish I could tell you, like, themes we had, but it's
that
kind
could be
of...
too identifying, yes. So
it's very identifying.
Rephrasing. Is there a sequence of moves? I'm trying to decide, actually, is that too identifying as well?
No, that's not too identifying.
Is there a sequence of moves that you remember it took a long time to get it down,
yes,
but by the end you finally nailed it, and that it was just, we finally freaking got this?
Yes. So, I'm not naturally gifted with tumbling, like doing the flips and whatnot. And so one, like, I guess move that, like, was really hard for me to get was a full twist. If you know what that is, it's basically where you do a backflip, except your legs are straight in the backflip, and then you do, like, if you just imagine, like, you're standing and then you do one full twist, it's like that, except in the air while flipping. It's very complicated, it's very hard, and it took me so long to accomplish it. I at points I didn't even think I would do it, and also, I know this is hard to explain, just the concept of like the flip itself. There are videos on YouTube for it, but basically, that, and like it was so funny because like I literally would twist like halfway and then twist back, you know, like I don't know why I didn't just continue the full twist, but eventually I did get it, and yeah, it was honestly, to this day, I go with this logic, right? Flipping is scary.
It sure
if
is.
you think about it, yeah, if you think about it, you're gonna get hurt. So literally just turn your brain off, don't even think about it, and just do it. And that's incredibly hard to do, is to just turn your brain off.
You are literally fighting against your self-protective instinct of...
Exactly.
That you are putting yourself through the air at high speeds with rotations, and that if just some level of the mechanics involved, whether it be, you know, how you push off the ground, the degree to which you throw your body into the twist, that you could land wrong, end up with a concussion, wind up with a broken arm. There is a lot that can go wrong, and it has to be extremely precise, and that when it's done right, it looks so easy, it looks so fluid, it looks so natural, it looks amazing. But it's so fucking hard to do. I have not done a flip, and I cannot fully understand how difficult it is, and I know it's really difficult.
Woo! Yeah, it like to this day, like it's so funny because like that was like my number one fear, honestly, at the time, was doing the thing that I would do every, like, I think like 4 or 5 times a week. I would go to practice and do, and you know, flip and tumble and stuff like that, and that terrified me. So like by the time like we did like, you know, normally scary things like how would you say, like connecting yourself to a line and jumping off a platform, ziplining. Like if we did ziplining or other scary things, I'd be like, well, this isn't as scary as tumbling, so I'm not scared.
You have a
Let's
new
go.
standard of what scares you, and that it makes everything else feel easier by comparison. That just the sheer repetition and practice, that's what a lot of these things take, whether it is cheer, marching band, or other activities of that sort, that the hours that you put in versus the hours of performance are usually going to be something like 50 to 100 to 1. And this is for most sports, that the number of hours that football players have to be at practice versus the number of hours in a game in a season is going to be vastly different. And that's the big thing that goes unnoticed for really everything. It doesn't matter if it's sports, it doesn't matter if it's being good at Dark Souls, that the repetition and practice and honing of skills, the whole concept of 10,000 hours sunk into something, will usually make you an expert in that field, and that people don't see that. And it can be so easy to sit in an audience and watch a whole bunch of incredible performances from different cheer groups, and at the end of the day, unfortunately, one of them is going to get last place, and that sucks.
Yep. And that's the thing
how
too,
it goes,
is
but that everyone, to simply make it to these competitions and to put on that show, is a success in and of itself.
And exactly. And the thing is, right, like this field specifically, and if you go to Worlds, it's literally so cutthroat that when you're looking at like a point scale, right, let's talk about scoring these kinds of things. And it's really complicated, but I'm gonna make it like really simple, just because there's a lot of things that go into it. Essentially, these are like the best of the best, like in the world, because you'll have countries coming from like Mexico, from like New Zealand, from England, and they're in their own separate divisions as well, because cheer in America is on a different level.
It's a different beast.
It's a different beast than cheer in other countries, but they're catching up. They're really catching up, and it looks really good. But if you're looking, this is literally the best of the best, and it comes down to literally 0.02 sometimes of winning or being second place, being third place, Like, it literally comes down to that that difference.
Same
It's
in marching
crazy.
band, and it's a very unique type of pressure that obviously by the time you get to performance day, generally speaking, you're going to know your routine forwards, backwards, and sideways, and that most of it will be reflexive at that point. But that there's always in the back of your head, I need to do this right. I've done it a million times. This is the one that matters, because if I'm out of step, if I forget that musical entrance, that could cost the entire band. Obviously, the stakes are much higher for cheer, because for you in particular, that, okay, if I'm out of step, I could cost a couple points, but in particular, I need to be paying attention for this throw, because if I don't, not only will the band suffer, but either myself or somebody else in this team will be physically injured. But
yeah,
but
it comes down to literally like, are you in line?
And that nobody will be hurt, and everything looks like it went well. And oops, there was some slight angle off, and there's your point 2.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it goes down to like the little things, right? And it's crazy how precise you have to be with things.
Was there ever a moment where you just sort of clicked with somebody else on the team, in the group, where I guess, you sometimes in your sports anime have that sort of rivals to friends arc, where you might not get along with somebody initially, but that as you spend time with them on the team, that you come to understand each other, and that I've had plenty of instances of that myself, just through marching band and other things. Hopefully you've had instances like that through cheer.
Yeah, I mean, not for me personally. I know of someone who, it's so funny because and once again, I don't want to reveal too much information, but someone I know was on a very prestigious team, and they are known throughout the country to have this really big rivalry with another team from another state. It's this team and the other team, right?
Oh, so this is
it's almost on the level.
I was more thinking of just individuals on the same team, but this is now that cross team rivalry.
I mean, yes, that too, right? There is that too, right? Because there are just some people who are just generally terrible, especially with social media. The arguing can, and essentially infighting as well. Sometimes, it can be pretty bad. But yeah, it's when you look at sports anime, it is kind of on the level of well, there's Dateko, I think, in Haikyuu, and then you have their team. I don't know their own team, and I think I even got Dateko wrong, but it is along the same line, I guess you can say. But yeah.
When you were on the team, so were you the one doing the throwing or being thrown, or did you end up doing both?
So I was a control freak, so I was the main thrower. Everything had to go right. Everything had to be my way, or the high. Well, I don't even know about that, but it's so funny because I will say I am a little shorter, and so there were cases where I should have probably have been thrown, especially back when I was a little bit younger, a little bit more spry. But if I'm being real with you, I didn't really like that end, and I wanted to be the one throwing and control of the whole stunt. So yeah.
Now, I know for marching band that there is high school and collegiate marching band. High school usually will have their different competitive circuits around the country. Some are regional based, a couple national ones. There is no central competition organization for collegiate marching band. Instead, there is what is called DCI, which is Drum Corps International, which in technicality is not quite your normal marching band because it has a specific subset of instruments and requirements, and it's its own beast, but that is sort of the closest thing you get to big leagues. But at the same time, DCI has its age cap. I cannot remember exactly where it is. I'm going to spitball it around 25. But past that, there is no, or rather, there are very few marching band opportunities post approximate collegiate age. For cheer, is there much in the ways of different participation opportunities past approximate collegiate age?
Yeah, there are. So basically, like, you have like the main all-star stuff, which is like from ages, I mean, honestly, like, you could start when you're 2, which is kind of interesting. But I mean, you know, some parents just want to throw their kids in there. But it goes all the way up until age 18, so that's like the all-star end. But if you want to do it after, essentially, like a lot of people, like me, I was like done by the time I was 18. I was like, absolutely not. I'm going on with my college life. I'm gonna do me and continue on with that. But some people want to continue on. So like there is like what they call international, where like you can go, it could be like, you could be like 70 if you wanted to and still be on like a team, but the age range, like, it varies a whole lot, right? So you could get like 24-year-olds on in a team with like 50-year-olds, but you know, like, it just depends on how fit you are and if you know, can work with the team in a right way, if you fit a need that the team needs. Exactly.
That there would be opportunities. And, I like that. I wish there were more of those for marching band. That there are a couple of NFL teams that have a marching band. They don't do nearly as much as other types of marching bands, that they might get like 3 minutes worth of a halftime show, usually less, and that they might play some stand tunes and might march in ranks and files during pregame, but it's not the same, not by a long shot, and that there are extraordinarily few marching band opportunities for adults. And I think it's really cool that there are those opportunities for cheer. Even if you don't have interest in continuing cheer, at least at this point in time, is it something that you could see yourself perhaps revisiting as a coach down the line?
No.
Nope, just no.
Absolutely not.
No.
Nope. I'm done. It's, yeah, I'm good.
That's entirely fair. That you certainly put in your time, and that it is clear that time still has a lot of meaning to you, but that you see this chapter and say, this was an important chapter, but it is a closed chapter.
Yeah, of course.
Is there anything...
Yeah, it was really fun.
Looking back, is there just a favorite moment you have in cheer, whether it be just a time that you placed particularly well? I don't want specifics of, you know, it was this year and it was this score, this placement, or just perhaps there was a show or a performance that was really special because there were a lot of friends and family there. Was there anything that was particularly meaningful to you?
Not really. Honestly, like, I can't say that information without revealing some stuff.
That's fair. So
yeah.
No. But
yeah.
Well, I guess. But the core of the question, that in your mind right now, is there a moment that you are thinking of and it's like, this? There is this moment that does exist and it means something to me.
So I guess like
no,
it was
no specifics. I'm not just.
Of course.
The simple yes or no that yes to you, that somewhere there is that moment, there is that time that is special to you. That's all. I don't want any details.
Of course, yeah. I think winning NCA, that was like a goal I had when I was younger, and I worked up to that. So I think that was the really big one for me. And it's not too revealing either because it's a competition in a place that like I didn't like I'm not located in, and it's not like it's vague enough. It is vague enough, yeah. Exactly.
That just again, obviously marching band is not a one-to-one, but that for what degree of similarity there is, I very much understand and identify the amount of time and the types of memories and the people that you met. And I also look at marching band and say, I'm done with that. That there are, like I said, those few opportunities for adult marching band. I have no interest in them. That I do still enjoy seeing marching bands perform, and I have to guess that you might not necessarily go out of your way to see all the competitions that are going on every year, but I certainly hope that, if a video of this year's Worlds crosses your timeline, that you're probably going to watch at least a bit of it and smile and enjoy it.
I'll look back on it with fond memories. Like, yeah, that was a good time of my life, but that is a time I am past.
Now you're an anime girl on the internet.
Wow, that's crazy. And it's so funny too, because like if I were to admit that, like, because at the time I was watching anime too, right? So like if I were to admit that I liked anime to any of those kinds of people, it would be no bueno. No bueno.
The social circle overlap is minimal at best.
Yeah, it was really rare to see, like, because like there were some people who did like that kind of stuff, but like it was rare. And a lot of the people, like, you'd expect to be in these kind of things are the people you'd expect to be. Like, you know what I mean? That
I don't like using the term stereotypes, but just
yes.
Certain generalizations become generalizations because they are based in fact of, statistically speaking, people in cheer are not going to be anime fans. Just statistically speaking. That's not to say there aren't, but...
Yes.
You'll find a lot more anime fans in marching band, I'll tell you that.
Hey, and you know what? Better on them. I could tell you there's probably a lot of more real people in marching band than there... Well, I don't know about that. I don't want to make a generalization either, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Watching anime in the 2010s, not in that economy. Gosh,
Yep.
That's one of the interesting things of anime, of just, it used to be, if we were lucky, that we would get a dub and a DVD release of a show 12 to 18 months after Japan. And that's assuming it did well enough to warrant licensing and dubbing. And now we are getting same-day subtitle releases, licensed, available on different streaming sites, and that there are a couple shows that are doing simuldubs, like same-day releases Japan, dubbed. That's relatively rare, but usually you can get dubs and have them anywhere from 1 to like 6 weeks. And it's just wild to think that, for all of the problems with different platforms, and that, whatever you may think of modern anime versus older anime, that it's been incredible to see just the entire industry grow, and the fact that we are now able to get so much here and to have so much of it licensed, dubbed, officially subtitled, and just be available.
Yeah, I mean, it's really nice. Like, I want anime to become more mainstream, you know what I mean? Like, and it certainly is. Like, it's making its way there. So it's exciting, especially like the One Piece live action helps with that. Just helping people to be like, wow, okay, anime isn't exactly what I thought, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's exciting. I definitely want it to be more readily available to the public.
One of the other types of content that you do on your channel, and I know you have a separate YouTube channel for it, is ASMR. And there's a lot of different ways to do ASMR. And I've had my fair share of ASMR artists on the show over the 2.5 years, 125 episodes. Where does the interest for ASMR begin for you? Because it's a very specific type of content creation. So what about it appealed to you first?
Yeah, so I would say that the specific appeal for that, it comes from, I don't know, I used to watch a whole lot of ASMR myself, just because, like, it helps me get through a lot of things. Like, I have a lot of anxiety when it comes to, like, work-related stuff and things I have to get through, like, IRL. And I think ASMR really helped me get through those things, especially, like, when I was getting my bachelor's degree. I would listen to ASMR, and that would help me, like, write the papers that I needed to write for that. So then I was like, you know what, maybe I always like do this thing where it's like, well, I really want to do this, but I can't do that. And then I think to myself, why can't I do that? And then I just do it. You know, if I want to do it, if there's any form of like desire to do it, then I'm just like, damn it, I'm gonna go fucking do it. I don't care. Like, somehow I'm gonna find a way. Yeah, find a way.
I wish more people were like that. That's very much what I do, and that's, you know, Vtuber Talk happened because in 2021, I go to a lot of conventions usually, and what wasn't happening in 2020 and 2021 conventions, and that I had too much time on my hands. I wanted to flex the organizer, coordinator part of my brain, and the result of that was Vtuber Talk, because I happened to fall down the Vtuber rabbit hole a couple months earlier, knew I didn't want to be a Vtuber, but said, okay, I don't want to be a Vtuber, but I want to do something. And when the idea of a talk show occurred, that I just sort of said, we're going to do this, we're going to try this. And here we are. And that sometimes people can get in their own head and perhaps create obstacles that don't exist. Sometimes there are very real obstacles that prevent people from embarking on a project. But I think that a non-insignificant amount of time, people let self-doubt get the better of them. And that
Yeah.
I'm happy that you're of the mindset of, let's do it.
There's no time like the present. That's what I always tell everyone. Like, I'm like, honestly, there's never too late of a time to start. You know what I mean? On whatever you want to do. Like, honestly, if you want to do it, if you want to, I don't know, be in an orchestra and play an instrument, start now. You never know what can happen. I know of somebody who like literally was like, oh, I want to be, like they said, like it was like their life goal to be in an orchestra. They started learning an instrument and they literally ended up doing it as like their job. And that's really hard to accomplish, right? So like
as their job, professional. Okay, that's
something else.
That's
yeah.
cool I was initially thinking, they were able to join a community orchestra and keep at it for a while. That's cool, and that still takes work. But people train and go to very expensive, prestigious music schools to get into professional orchestras. There are extraordinarily few positions that exist in a given country in the world for professionals on a given instrument. So if you can actually have that be what pays your bills, you've done something very special.
Exactly. And like, I know someone who has done that. So like, the sky is the limit. The One Piece is real. The One Piece is real.
Real. Can we go much higher?
Yeah.
So for ASMR, it was sort of a why not. Rewinding it a little bit, like I said, there's a lot of different forms of ASMR. That there's roleplay ASMR. This is not the right term, but sound effect ASMR, where there is little to no talking, but it is using, anything from just like metal objects to make dings, or just like ear cupping on a 3DO. So, what type of ASMR do you enjoy as a listener?
Story. Hold on. Role plays. So like I specifically, like, there's this one ASMR artist I recommend to a lot of people who are like getting into ASMR, because ASMR gets a bad rep, right? Like, when you think of ASMR, especially like on Twitch, it's like, oh, there's this very precarious woman. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but like there's this
I think the word you were looking for was promiscuous.
Promiscuous woman on the internet who is dressed in a way that is a little bit revealing, and they're licking their mic, and by the way, that takes a lot of effort to do for long periods of time as well.
Oh yeah. No,
so like, girl, get your bag.
Yeah, it's not the type of content that I am going to go out of my way to consume, but hey, I acknowledge that there is a audience for that, and that if you're able to do that and make that work, there are skills involved there, and that, hey, have at it. Like you said, get that bag. I have had adult content creators on this show before. I have had folks who have done adult ASMR. I have had people who have done the complete opposite of, like, for lack of a better term, say-so, just very family-friendly ASMR, like quiet, positive affirmations, everything in between. There is no wrong way to do ASMR, And
Exactly.
but that sort of leads the question of what type do you enjoy, because there are so many different types.
Yeah, and I think, like I was saying, like there's like so many different types, so it's ultimately up to like what you want to listen to yourself. You know, it's like for me, like that's roleplay ASMRs. I always recommend this one creator called Goodnight Moon. She does like a lot of like 1920s kind of role plays, and she puts a lot of effort into her videos. Like she makes a whole set. She dresses up like a character. She plays a character from the 1920s, and the writing is just very good. So it's basically like you're watching like a small little like I don't know about like a TV show. That's a little rough, but like so basically like I like that kind of stuff, you know? It depends. Like some people may like the ear licking stuff, and that's perfectly okay too. It's just ultimately up to what you want, and you should always bullying and stuff like that always comes out of not understanding what it is, in my opinion, and not having like not taking the time to fully like look into it and appreciate the effort that goes into stuff. So I don't know. That's what I gotta say about that.
Yeah. So you prefer I guess I'm trying to think of what term would fit here, because this doesn't. I'm looking at the channel right now on YouTube, and actually I'm gonna put the link in chat. That it seems more like storytelling ASMR. That it's not quite it's not quite role play. That there is a script involved in the sense of they're not playing a character but telling a story.
Yeah. And I mean like well they are playing a character essentially, and it could like vary, right? Like it could be like, oh, I'm literally just I'm a doctor and I'm giving you a checkup, or like it'll be like, oh, I'm your celebrity personal assistant, or oh, I work at a jewelry shop or a jewelry store.
Okay, so
and
this is more akin to roleplay ASMR. I was misunderstanding, but that's super cool. That I'm looking at some of these videos. I see the celebrity personal assistant.
Yeah.
Stuffy spa, just stuffed animal spa. That's such an
So
adorable
cute.
concept.
Exactly. And it's you could be as creative with it as you want as well, which is very nice.
And for you, so that's the type that you enjoy listening to. Is that the type that you primarily make? That I've tuned in, I think, only for a part of one of your ASMR streams, and it was more, for lack of a better term, conversational ASMR. That,
yeah.
And frankly, that's the type that I usually enjoy listening to. That I don't usually go for pre-recorded ASMR. I, at least on my own time, enjoy just sort of the, again, surprise, surprise, the talk show host enjoys talking streams, and that ASMR, just chatting streams, have a unique type of appeal to me, and I do enjoy that. And that's actually wound up being somehow how I have found some of my guests and some folks that I still follow quite actively to this day. And that's at least what I saw the one time I tuned in, but I'm not sure. Is that your go-to style, or what you just happen to be doing that day?
So what I want to do eventually, right? I don't know if I want to continue. Okay, streaming ASMR is different from what I want to do. So I do have an ASMR channel, right? And I do want to upload what I do regarding ASMR stuff like on that YouTube channel, but I would love to do a lot more of the role plays. And I've done it before in the past. It's just a matter of finding the time to, script everything out, pick the sets, do all of the jazz.
There's a lot involved.
Exactly. And it's a little bit harder to do that like when you're streaming, especially when streaming is designed for longer form content, which I mean ASMR can be longer form. I think that the role plays, it's a little bit more difficult because you have to decide what you're going to do and stick with it and really act as though you're like act as though you're a celebrity personal assistant. You know what I mean? But so it'd be a little bit harder to stream it. But yeah, ultimately at the end of the day, I really want to end up doing like recorded videos.
And like you mentioned, you do have a separate YouTube channel for that. I know I linked your main YouTube channel for the channel panels here live on Twitch. I will make sure that both links make it to the YouTube description.
Sounds good.
But
Thank you.
Like you said, that there is a lot involved, and that I know you are a very busy person, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time, and I do appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be here. So I have two last questions that I ask all my guests. The first is, do you have any goals for the rest of the year, the rest of 2023, that we are nearing the end of September, which is really weird, that we have a little over 3 months left. So is there something that you're hoping to accomplish, whether it be, it could just be get your first ASMR video out, or is there another project or a type of stream that you want to try, or anything else that you're hoping to accomplish before we hit 2024?
Yeah, I definitely want to get some more covers out. I do have a cover in the works. I'm hoping to get it out before Halloween, but it's looking like it might be a little bit after Halloween. And that's totally okay. But yeah, it definitely like the covers part of it. And also I want to really start putting out some more like short form like covers, like just like in the form of like TikTok videos or something like that. Once again, just an idea, or just like a thing of managing time a little bit better. But yeah, those would be like some of the goals.
And the last question I ask all my guests is, what does being a VTuber mean to you? And that's not what is the definition of a VTuber, but that similar to ASMR, there isn't a right or wrong way to be a VTuber. I've had folks who have said, being a VTuber lets me get in touch with my inner child, or it lets me be someone I can't be in real life. Others have had a more clinical approach and said, I consider myself an actor first and foremost, or a performer first and foremost, and my VTuber model is a very valuable tool in my tool belt as a entertainer, and I think it allows me to entertain more effectively than I could as a facecam streamer, but I don't have a personal attachment to my model. And those are two pretty different ends of a spectrum, and there's stuff in between and even beyond. So for you, Doxi, what does being a VTuber mean to you?
So personally, I'd say the acting kind of part, like it allows me to be like exactly what you said, be a lot more creative, like kind of just express my creative side. Something I could do a whole lot things that I wouldn't be able to do if I was like a face cam streamer or stuff like that, especially like with VR related stuff. So yeah, that would be like a big one for me.
I always ask that at the end of the show, because while I never know exactly how someone will answer, that the answers do always make sense, even if just from the little bits that I learn about someone over the course of a show. And that for you, that you are someone, going as far back as Cheer and perhaps even farther, that you do enjoy performing. That's so clear from your streams, that you're very high energy, that you move your model around, that not everybody does the full click and drag moving around thing. I personally enjoy it. I understand why not everyone does it, but I find that sort of emblematic of people who are particularly high energy. And it's clear that you're having so much fun with what you're doing, and that you are very much at the start of this particular journey. And I'm very excited to see where you go from here. So again, Doxi, thank you so much for being here tonight. I really do appreciate it. The actual last question is, who would you like us to raid?
Oh,
surprise.
Yeah, let's...
While she looks around, I'll do some last housekeeping. First off, to everybody in chat, thank you so much for tuning in, whether you've been here since the starting soon screen or wound up here somewhere along the line. I know I have not responded much to chat. I do try and focus on the guests, but I really appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much to Yoshi Hayashi, Kenzo Benzo Bean, GSG Wicked, GhostX Gaming 6785, Donut 51, Fulgorex 27, Callum TT, Death Hearth 013, and Holmes Shiroyami for the follows. Really do appreciate it. Hope you all enjoyed. I do these shows approximately once a week. I don't have much of a set schedule, but if you're interested in keeping up with me, it is just VTuber Talk here on Twitch and Twitter, also on Blue Sky now. I need to probably add that to the social links now that I think about it, but I'll do that later. Also, Solix42, thank you so much for the follow. Really do appreciate it. So if you're interested in more shows like these, feel free to follow me. But even if you aren't, please, if for some reason you aren't already, one more shout out. Please do be sure to follow Boxy. Oh, it's not letting me. I need to wait another 11 minutes. So, well, go follow Boxy. The links are here at the bottom of the screen. They'll be either in the channel panels or in the video description on YouTube. So do follow her. There's a lot of fun to be had there. And again, Doxi, thank you. We're going to be raiding into Exoverse. So actually, they were in chat a little bit earlier. So we'll be able to say hi to them. Be sure to let them know that Doxi sent you. So once again, this has been episode 125 of Vtuber Talk. Thank you, Doxi. Thank you, chat. Say hi to Exoverse for me. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.